welcome to this broadcast. This is a short trailer about the show Boundaries and Thresholds. The topic of boundaries and thresholds is very important because we live in a world where we can only recognize things when we encounter a boundary, when we encounter a threshold. If we didn't have a threshold, we didn't have a boundary, we wouldn't be able to recognize one thing from another. So that's where we start with this 10 show broadcast. We start with recognizing boundaries and recognizing thresholds. Now that takes us into an area called systems theory. Now systems theory has a very physical side to it in terms of explaining how physical things happen in our world, but it also has application in our social world in terms of how things interact. So it explains how energy is exchanged between one system and another. So systems theory is very important because it's all about energy. And when we work, we get energy in the form of money. When we buy things, we get exchange, this symbolic energy, money, for a product or a service. So the theory that we move into now is how to apply and understand energy, and the best theory I think out there is something called thermodynamics. Now you might think again this applies only to physical things, but it doesn't. It explains the exchange of energy between any systems. We move on with the series. As we proceed, we'll go into looking at recognizing energy, notating energy. It's very important to recognize what kind of energy or how you're using your energy. And so we'll talk about that in very specific ways in which you can use it on a day-to-day basis. The series goes on and starts to look at the difference between classical science and the new emerging science since the 20s, quantum science, quantum theory. Now this switch over from the classical view of the world to this quantum view of the world was quite controversial, and Einstein had a lot of difficulty dealing with it. In fact, it is rumored that on his deathbed he had his journal and he was trying to work with this unified theory, which didn't really work. It needed something, it needed quantum theory. So we'll look at that, and you may say, well, why should we look at quantum theory? Because this is what's going to change our perception of the world and how we deal with it. In fact, science has all through history changed, every scientific discovery has changed how we view the world. So this is another reason these 10 sessions will be important. So we end the 10 sessions with a series of topics, and these topics deal mainly with how the world around us, our reality, is perceived by not just the thinkers and the philosophers and various religions, but mainly in terms of science, because science is changing the way we see the world and work with it. So stay tuned. The next presentation, the next session, will be an overview, in detail overview, providing the format and the content of each of the 10 sessions. So stay tuned for that. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of technical buttons to push and so on, and you may notice me doing that. Don't let that distract you. It's just what I have to do to get this information to you. So I really do look forward to the opportunity to share this with you. If you go to my webpage, steveoliver.com, and go to the Steve TV channel, you can request to be part of the show, and you'll get an email allowing you to participate, ask questions during the live broadcast. So at that, I'll leave you, and again, keep your eyes open for the next broadcast on boundaries and thresholds, which will be the overview of the sessions. Thank you very much.